All right, so first, I kind of want to address, earlier today I got to call it the elephant in the room, but it's kind of not an elephant in the room anymore, so you kind of have a good idea of what, hopefully by now you have a good idea of what next week looks like. Now, ultimately what I'm going to say is, I have budgeted in later this week to discuss specifically what this class looks like. Does that make sense? Because this class is a little different, and we're not going to stop doing labs, and we're not going to stop doing what we're doing just because we're changing different hybrid models and things like that. So looking at it, we just have to figure out how and what the expectations are. And I'm going to be completely honest with you, I'm waiting until the end of the week because I'm expecting a few more things to change and be modified before that. Does that kind of make sense? So I hate to explain everything I want to do today and then for it to all change by Friday. Now, could it change by Friday anyways? You bet. So that being said, are there any glaring questions or concerns you have about transitioning back into a hybrid model? I kind of figured by F hour we'd have most of them out of the way.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Do you know why, like, you go, like, a group would go Monday, Thursday, and then Tuesday, Friday, instead of, like, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday?
Yeah, so that's actually, like, I think, the teacher's preference, because we meet with everyone on Wednesday. So if you were to meet with the class Monday, Tuesday, when the whole class meets on Wednesday, the other half of the class that was going to meet, like, Thursday, Friday, it just isn't balanced.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's really hard instructionally to keep everyone on the same page. I asked the same question at first, and then once I started thinking about it, I was like, no, I need the Monday, Thursdays, Tuesday,
Just
Fridays.
because, like, going to school on Monday and Thursday, and then having two, you know, it just...
The good news is you always, like, here's the thing, and this is, I think, a mental change we need to make, is the going to school, you're going to school every day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Which I think is different from the hybrid schedule we had at the beginning, and very different from what we had last spring. Is the idea needs to be every day from 8 to 3 o'clock, you're in class. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's, I think, going to be the hardest part for kids to adjust to, is I'm sure that when Monday comes and a hour rolls around, kids are going to be MIA. What you have to know is that we, as teachers, have been instructed, we're taking attendance. And if you're not zooming in when you're supposed to be zooming in, it's skipping class just like if you didn't show up in person.
I heard...
Sorry, we'll stay here for a second.
I heard you have to show our face.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And this is what I'm telling all my students. I'm going to talk more about this on Friday. The expectation is that you are ready to go as when you log into Zoom for my class, it's no different than if you walk through that door. Does that kind of make sense? Which means the laying down in bed and all that other stuff is not going to happen. Right? You're going to treat it somewhat professionally. Does that make sense? Sorry guys, but you have to wear a shirt. I don't know how many stories I heard from last spring about people showing up without shirts on and stuff. I don't understand. But you guys get it? That kind of makes sense? Now, I didn't take it as far as some teachers were saying like they wanted their students in dress code.
Whoa.
I know, right?
That's
I was like, I'm not going to go that
That
far.
is nuts.
I am going to ask that you're wearing something that you would wear like out in public, right?
Probably not to do.
Huh?
Probably not to do. We don't worry, that's just a t-shirt.
Yeah, whatever, right?
That's for Zoom.
I know,
That is fantastic.
yeah. But every teacher's got different vibe and feel for this stuff. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's probably going to come back.
So like, we have a test next Tuesday, right? So like,
Yes
I'm
and no.
sorry,
Yeah, it's we're still going to have a test next week.
okay.
It's going to be pushed back on us.
But like, so one group will take it like Thursday, one will take it Friday, something like that. Is that, or is that, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, this is a question that's come up, and I actually had a long discussion with certain individuals in the building about what tests should look like, and more importantly for me, what tests should look like in an AP course. Because one of two things is going to happen. I say everyone's taking it on Thursday, and then those that are at home are going to cheat, right? Or I say, okay, half of you are going to take it on Thursday, half are going to take it on Friday, And then those that take it on Thursday are just gonna share everything with those taking it on Friday. Does that kind of make
It's
sense?
on Wednesday, then we all cheat.
Yeah, I mean, and you see the problem I'm running into, and I'm not calling all of you cheaters, right? You're opportunists, right? You're going to do what it takes to be successful. We'll throw it in that terminology. So I'm currently looking and trying to digest what that test, how it's going to change. I can tell you two things about the testing situation. One is whatever I decide, I'm going to fully believe in that it's the right thing to do. And then second, I'm going to make sure it's fair. Because what I don't want is for you to be in class taking it and for you to know that Charlie's at home cheating. You know, because that's just going to not be good for the class, right?
Charlie would.
He would definitely not have his notes open. He would definitely not Google an answer on his phone. Yeah, but that might be an option, right? Then all of you have an equal opportunity to choose.
Our last test was online.
Yep.
Is that how our tests usually are?
For AP Physics, that's how they switched to last year. Yep. It was a transition to last year because AP Classroom was new last year.
I like taking it online. I like that.
All right, you got your question?
Are we for sure going to that schedule on Monday, or do we still not know 100%? I will be completely honest with you. When we left the meeting yesterday, we were told that's what we're doing. This morning we were instructed to talk in hypotheticals. So we were told, yes, that's what we're doing, but then today some of us were instructed that we should talk of, if we were to go to this model, this is what it would look like. So that's what I know. I currently know that there are several pieces of the puzzle that haven't quite fallen into place. And there's always the issue of who should find out first. Should the parents find out, the students find out, the staff find out, that kind of issue. Does that kind of make sense? So we might have to be playing the card of if we do this until your parents get an official memo. I don't know, I don't like playing those games. I'd like to just know. I am assuming that is what we're doing. And I would assume that we are in that model until the end of the semester at least. And then my wish and my goal would be that over Christmas break, we reevaluate as what good scientists and engineers do. We take a look at it, what was good, what was bad, what was ugly, make tweaks and adjustments, and then reset for next semester. Because if you really think about it, we only have a few academic weeks left before exams. I'm sorry.
Wait.
It's like 4 weeks.
Yeah. But like academic weeks, because you got Thanksgiving weekend. Yeah. That's not true. So the snow day situation, we were talking about that pre-pandemic, where if we had one snow day, we'd call it a wash. We'd lose that day of instruction. But we were talking if we had consecutive snow days, like 2 in a row, then that second one would be a virtual learning day. I don't know. Hey, I know we're still, I don't think that even came up in the discussion. Because I will tell you that yesterday, I think it emphasized the differences in opinions of our staff. And you know, because you probably have friends that are all over the place and parents that are all over the place. And, I mean, you probably get the feel from the teachers that we're all over the place. That it was interesting to hear that discussion yesterday. I was proud of myself. I was able to keep my mouth shut. As my wife describes it, I'm occasionally a little too passionate when it comes to things. I don't know, being passionate about safety, that's a negative, I guess. But you know what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot to hash out still. I would say this, be as flexible as possible. Enjoy the school year as much as you can. Try to get as much out of it as you can. And just, it is what it is. Because when it comes down to it, I'm going to tell you pretty much the realization that I had yesterday. I have this much control over it. 0. And you have even less than I do. Right? So I'm just taking what I get, and I'm just trying to get you the best education I can provide you for this class.
So do you
I don't know, I go back and forth. And here's why. And this is, I don't want to say this is what I'd like if it were a perfect world, because I think any decision is the wrong decision. Does that make sense? And so I am not jealous of those that have to make the final decision, because if I were looking at it from a safety lens and from a very personal lens, yes, we'd all be virtual. But I fully understand and respect that being 100% virtual is not good for you. It's not good academically, it's not good socially, it's not good mentally. And so that's kind of 3 strikes, you take that off the list kind of thing. So I don't know. I think a hybrid approach is probably our best bet. Now, how that hybrid approach comes out and is implemented and things like that, there's 100 different ways to do it. And like I said, I don't think there's the right answer for anything. Deacon Costello, put it yesterday, is like, we're all dealt crap, and we're all just trying to make it work. And I think that's the best way to deal with it. And I don't like to do the hypotheticals if I were in charge, what I would do, because I'm not in charge, and I don't get to say that. So, and I'm glad I'm not. Answer your question, Ken?
Are we being forced to do this, or is it just because we have more cases?
So there's a couple things that are driving this, right? First, when you have almost 100 students out for quarantine, that becomes an issue. Last Monday, I was batting around 60% attendance.
Yeah. 60 what?
60% in attendance.
Last Monday?
Yeah.
16%?
No, 60. Let's say I'm missing almost half the population of class. That is not a functional method to instruct kids. And some of you were out last week, and I did nothing for you, right? You can ask, I tried to record some lectures and had tech issues. By the way, that just deleted off my iPad.
Oh, really? You're
Yeah.
kidding?
Nope.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't even have that first 20 minutes or so. I wasn't. So now the idea is that we know case numbers are increasing. So we're going to have to assume under our current model, we'd have more and more quarantine. And what we're seeing is with every positive case, we're losing about 25 kids or so to quarantine because of the social distancing aspect. With the idea of if we go hybrid again, we can then social distance in the classroom. That way when we have a positive case, we might be losing 1 or 2 rather than 25 to quarantine. Because when you have 90 students that are quarantining and they did nothing wrong and they didn't have a choice at all based on where they sat in class, that's really doing the students a disservice. You know what I mean? You didn't get to choose where you sat, it's just because you sat next to someone that tested positive.
Yeah.
And the good news is, we haven't had any inter-school contraction.
Yeah, no one's gotten it from school.
Right, which is really good, which means our safety procedure and our mask wearing is doing well. But to eliminate that massive amount of quarantining that is needed when you have a positive case from outside the school, we need to social distance again. So that's why the hybrid model came back up. And then the idea that case numbers are going to continue to increase, it's hard to argue against that at this point. As they're increasing. So many things going through my head right now. Yes.
So, hypothetically, if we were to be on a Zoom with a lockdown browser, taking a test, how would one cheat?
You can't be on Zoom and a lockdown browser.
It doesn't work like that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So-
Zoom is not-
So this is how you cheat. You have lockdown browser, and then you have your notes and your book and your cell phone and your other computer all sitting right there, and you have access to the world. Or if you're at home, you're texting Charlie because he's my cheater today.
Can't you record on a lockdown browser though?
You can. You can still.
But what does that do?
Put the phone
I mean,
behind
see
you.
your eyeballs movement,
You can.
You
put the
think
screen
Hold on, hold on.
You think Mr. Roseman's gonna watch all of us take that test?
And then here's the thing. This is what I say. I go, hey, I think you were cheating. And you're going to be like, why? And I'm like, because your eyes kept darting over. And you'd be like, well, my cat was over there or something. And I'm going to go, okay.
Or you can just
So,
have your
Hey.
babysitting my little sister.
Yeah, there's so many
So you
things.
could like wholeheartedly think we're cheating and you have no way to prove it,
Yeah.
so we could just deny it.
So like I said, I'm gonna have a solution to that problem that I believe in. That is, I think, gonna be fair. I just don't know what it is yet. Pray for me.
If anybody's thinking of a really good idea,
Let me know.
okay.
I'll think of one.
So here's the thing, and this is a conversation that came up yesterday. If someone tests positive, should they be zooming into class? So the idea is if you're quarantined and asymptomatic and feeling fine and everything like that, then you should be zooming in every single day. If you tested positive, that doesn't mean you're sick. So my expectation, and we couldn't get a clear consensus yesterday, but if you test positive and you're feeling fine, be on Zoom, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't understand why you wouldn't. Why would you want to just dig a 14-day hole or a
It's not
10-day
like,
hole?
it's not like you can go anywhere else either.
Yeah, right? Does that kind of make sense? So I know from my expectation is, unless you're really sick, you should be on. And I mean, if you're like, well, I have the sniffles, but you're on Zoom, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think the expectation is that should curb absenteeism. You really shouldn't miss unless you're like, yeah. And we all know that like there's days where like I'm not feeling good, but like I can sit through a Zoom call. And you know, I think we can have an open enough relationship about that where even if you got on the Zoom call and said, Ms. Rosemont, I'm gonna try it, right? All right, let's do it, right? Does that make sense? Now, if you are truly sick and you're not coming to Zoom, your parent needs to call you in just like if you were in this class. Because if you're absent on Zoom, it's like you're absent from class. You just skipped class. Punishments are coming. Not to mention you can't participate in extracurriculars that day either. Sports? You know, if you miss school, you can't do practice or a game that day.
Yeah.
So what is attention on Zoom too?
Look at this girl. Any other questions about that? I'm going to call it crap.
If you have a doctor's appointment, you have to like run up your doctor's note and you go home and sit at the
Take your class with you to that.
Sorry, I'm sitting in the waiting.
But I mean,
Seriously, what if you're like a doctor's appointment?
here's the thing. What are we doing in class that day? If you know that I'm going over the workbook that you struggled with, then yeah, you might be zooming on your phone in your car on the way to the doctor. Right? Does that make sense? If you were like, oh, I got the workbook, I don't need to hear this, then yeah, do what you need to do. Does that kind of make sense? Like, I have to take attendance. Right? I do. So if you're not there, I'm going to mark you absent. Now, am I going to hunt you down and be like, why weren't you there? No. Sorry. All the day AP Science with Mr. Roseman. I don't care that much about you. Yeah.
If you have like problems getting into Zoom, would we tell you guys or have our parents call us out?
Yes and no. So this is what my thought process is. I'm going to mark you absent if you're not there. Does that make sense? So if that's the case, then your parents need to call them and just say, hey. I would also expect for you to let me know, hey, I gave an honest effort. I'm just having internet issues at home or, you know, tech issues, things like that. Does that kind of make sense? Because things are going to happen, right? Their internet's going to go out, their iPad's going to explode or something, and they're not going to be able to get on Zoom. But at that point, you need to just make sure to call up here and make sure that they're aware that you're not just skipping. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have a question. Like, do you ever think about like how much screen time we're having? Like how much time we're looking at the screen? And I don't know, when I was younger, they would tell me like you can only be on the screen for like 1 hour a day.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. I just think about this.
I am fully behind you with that. And that is a discussion that we had. And I don't want to say it fell on deaf ears, but here's the thing. You have to come into class for Zoom at, what time does this class start? 2:10. Right? There are going to be days that at 2:15 I go, bye, and you're going to work on your stuff. Does that kind of make sense? There's going to be other days where you're in for 20 minutes. There's going to be some days where you're in for the whole hour. So we're hoping, this is my hope and dream, that if enough teachers do that kind of random, that you'll have 30, 40-minute breaks throughout the day. Does that kind of make sense? Now with that being said, my Zoom link is going to be open, which means like if I go, hey, we're going to do work now, go do work, you can log off Zoom, and then if you have a question 10 minutes later, you can log back into Zoom. Does that kind of make sense? I want it to be just like my door. You walk in when class starts, you sit here, you do your thing, and then if I excuse you to go do work, you can go away.
So there's going to be 10 minutes in person class.
There's attendance for every single class. And so you will have to Zoom into every single class, including study halls.
So hypothetically, I could call in and impersonate my parents. and
Sure.
call myself out.
Sure. You could have done that this whole
People do
time.
that all the time.
I did it in high school.
Who does that?
Who doesn't do that?
You never tried that?
I've heard of
I
it.
showed it.
I know people that have it. I couldn't. I couldn't call my mother's voice.
You don't have to sound like your mother. You just have to sound not like you.
Yeah.
Do they have to call it or can they send it to you? Because I would
It's a call.
I call from my parents' phone.
Yeah, because they see the phone close. They have.
And you think they're cross-referencing the phone numbers?
They have. I know people have gotten in trouble because they are so.
Oh yeah, that means they probably did something stupid. Like, all right, we good?
You don't think they look at phone numbers?
Not me.
Yeah, they do play. And most of the time it's messages anyway.
Yeah, you just leave a message.
I'm pretty sure every single time my mom has called the attendance office, it's gone voicemail.
All right, just because I'm recording this, let me make this very clear. You are not allowed to call yourself out. There will be punishment if you impersonate your parents. Probably death.
I keep forgetting you're recording. I'm like, who's gonna watch this? Everyone's here.
No,
Who's not here?
we're missing. Matt, Joe.
Joe, Matt, where you at? Where you at, you guys? Where are you at? Okay.
I knew we were missing people. I just didn't know who.
Aren't they supposed to be back today?
They call themselves.
Yeah, they told me
I cannot comment on why someone's not here.
Oh, okay.
They're not here.
I just know that they run the.
All right, today.
You should ask a question and test if you're still listening. That's a great.
So like, what's my middle name?
Just say, yeah.
Mason knows my name.
Okay, well, just say something. I don't know. Like, ask a random question. If they say tomorrow.
Like, what size shoe do I wear?
When you come in tomorrow, tell me what.
Next, hey, email me what size shoe I wear, and it's a size 9.
And you have to
That's
answer.
small feet.
You have to guess.
So email me size 9 to see if you're watching this.
Yeah. See what I mean?
I got you.
You're gonna get 0
I know. Especially this one. They're gonna watch the first 2 minutes.
I know, they're like, what is this?
Trust me, I made videos last spring for AP Physics, and it was funny because on YouTube you can see like how much they watch and like where they turn off.
You can.
Yeah. So it was funny because like I have like a 15-minute video, and like some of them would be like at the 4-minute mark everyone turns it off. And so like I go back and I'm like, what did I say at 4 minutes? I was like, oh, that's when I actually started talking about content. So all right, today I want to talk about what our new schedule looks like. So please go on to not AP1, go on to Google Classroom, and I have posted an agenda for the next couple weeks, including what our new hybrid kind of thing looks like. And we are going to take a look at it, and I will tell you now, this needs to be a flexible document. Because I will tell you, you were supposed to do your coefficient of friction lab today.
Why not?
In the next 15 minutes. So, obviously I understand there's adjustments. Let me get my screen up and running, and we'll kind of walk through it. And that's probably what we'll do today, is make sure we're all on the same page.
We have a question.
Of course.
So yesterday at the meeting, like, was every single staff member there? Like,
All of those that are in quarantine, yeah.
how many are in quarantine?
Okay, tell me if I'm wrong.
What? You didn't even notice.
No, I noticed. I didn't know I was gonna be able to reach it.
I don't know.
Do you want me to?
Probably because Mr. Costello was up for a bit when he's back.
Yeah, he's right.
Mr. Costello did the entire match without an asking. I was like, didn't you just get tested?
Wasn't Evans up for it?
Yeah, everyone's up at the beginning.
Yeah, she's not.
Yes.
She's been back for a while.
All I know is Bart doesn't know we're not in school. Is Arthur in school today?
No.
No.
Alright.
Do they all have it? Or they're just-
Alright, hey, I'm gonna talk from over here, because I'm not gonna mess with technology, and it's a problem. So notice, the first thing I want you to notice is there are objectives, a whole page of objectives. That is for this unit. Notice I made the little bullet points almost as check mark boxes. I'm deliberate. I want you to treat that almost as check boxes. Remember, those objectives read, students will be able to ... So you should read it as I can ... See if you can do it or not. If not, maybe that's what we need to shore up before test day. Now, there is one thing I've kind of taken off of our agenda is springs and spring forces. I have decided that it is in our best interest right now to punt our discussion on springs until later on in the school year. It's not a big deal. For the first 4 years I taught AP Physics, that's how I did it. So it's not crazy, just be aware of that. If you're looking at the old schedule, you were worried about Hooke's Law. Well, we're not going to worry about that right now, we're going to worry about it later. So, looking at those objectives, those are what you need to make sure you know and understand. Then, it gets to the agenda. This week, and then the following week, and then notice I currently have the test split over 2 days, Thursday and Friday. As we discussed previously, I understand that might need to be adjusted. So, I kind of want to walk through, because this is very similar to the agendas I was giving out, just vertical instead of horizontal now. That today we were supposed to have done that coefficient of friction lab. We're going to try to get the whole thing in tomorrow, which means we need to come in and just get right to work. Right? No nonsensical questions, no swallowing magnets, no what happens if two forces pull on my ears at the same time type questions. We just need to go to work. On Thursday, my plan is to discuss workbook G, H, and I. So please make sure you have those completed before then. Also, there should be time that day to work on one of the quizzes. Now, some of you still haven't done the free body diagram quiz, things like that. Now, if you're quarantined or not in class, I will be getting with you shortly about figuring out what those quizzes look like because currently they're on paper. Question?
Is workbook and the web assignment still due on the 17th?
I haven't changed their due dates yet, but they will be due the day of the test. Yes?
On Thursday, November 12th, and Tuesday, November 17th, it says quiz Atwood's machine or friction for both.
Yeah, so there's 2 quizzes.
Oh, okay.
So I would assume that you would do the Atwood's one on one day, friction on the other. Now, if you did the Atwood's machine lab and feel good about it, you might be ready to take that. Right?
What if you didn't do the Atwood's machine lab and you got the data from someone else?
So then I would make sure to do the web assign problems that address Atwood's machines.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So it depends on kind of what you've done so far, which one you're going to feel better taking. To be honest, coming right off the coefficient of friction lab, it might make sense to take the friction one. Just throwing that out there.
Can you repeat what you said about you didn't take the last quiz?
Yeah, we got to do it. We just got to figure out when.
Oh, okay.
And I also have to figure out what we're doing for those kids that are quarantined, because normally they're on paper. So once again, we got to figure out what tests and quizzes look like for those not in class.
How are we turning your work?
I just check them. So because we didn't do anything with the workbook in our first unit, so what I do for workbook is, because essentially by the time we get to the test, I've gone over all of them. I just look at your workbook, and if it looks like you did it, looks like you gave it an honest attempt, there's your points. Does that make sense? So it can be digitally, it can be on paper, I don't care. I'm just going to walk by and go, did you do it? Okay. Sound good? Okay. Notice Friday is I have as a work day. We are gonna talk about the new hybrid model once kind of all the I's have been dotted, T's have been crossed. We'll talk a little bit more. The good news is we talked about it quite a bit today, so we shouldn't have to talk too much. But that's a work day, so if we need to finish up lab, we can do that. If we need to take another quiz, we can do that. Lots of options there. And then moving into next week, we kind of see the same thing going on. Notice the virtual day on Wednesday. My plan for that first one is because that's going to be our first virtual day where we're all on Zoom. And because I just found out today that it's actually an official late start Wednesday type thing, I think we don't start classes until 11 or something. Yeah, on next Wednesday. Wednesdays, once we start the hybrid model.
So every Wednesday's gonna be.
Everyone's virtual on Wednesdays.
Oh, like 11?
Yeah, I think it's something like
Will
that.
our classes still be the full though?
No, we're done by 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so your school day will be like 11 to 3, so it'll be shortened classes for everybody. All right, so are we good with that? Yes. Hey, listen up. Okay, I'll get you. Anything else for the greater good? All right, I'm stopping recording. Goodbye.